Hey guys, Mike V from Reliable Automotive Equipment here today. Today we're going to be going over Wielander Schill's WS60 dent pulling station set up for steel. So let's get to it. So we start off with power on in the back. This does run off 110 volts, so it's relatively nice to roll around the shop. When the unit comes on, we'll assemble the gun assembly. Ground wires are already attached to the machine. Power cord goes in. Twist and lock, little control button, lines up, only goes in one way, locks into place. So what we're going to start off first on this is the actual little slide hammer dent puller. We'll go in there, we'll lock that up, just give that a little snug. So when we start up with this is the control button for doing different operations. In the middle, it is set up for the dent pulling setup. Over here, will put us into another program that we'll get into. And then on the other side, there's also another one. So when we start out, the button is going to be in the middle. We do have control of the timer, and we do have control of power. So standard dent pulling on steel, put our ground wire on. So the ground wire here just clamps right on. Nice part about this one, if you leave that on the outside part of the panel, you don't make any vice grip marks on the panel itself. So once we have ground set up, just our normal setup, pull the trigger, then you can determine if you have enough power on this or if you need to set it more. So that's rolling good. We can loosen that up. Timer and power, if you're running into a little bit of an issue, always start off at a lower setting first to make sure you're not going to blow any holes in the material, and then work your way up if it's not sticking enough. Power, you can kind of maintain around 50, 55. If you take your timer and bump it up a little bit, you can still maintain your power level and still get a better weld by extending the timer just a little bit on it. So again, then make sure that we're doing well. A little twist, it'll come off. That is the slide puller. This piece is replaceable. A little Allen screw will come out, the little triangle piece, you can turn it. You can also take this piece and reform the tip. All you want to do is just maintain what the original one looks like with some roundness on it, and you get quite a lot of use out of this tip. So we'll take this off. So keeping in the same operations, we're going to be able to have access to all our different components, where we'll be able to weld on washers, pull tabs, studs, wiggle wire, pretty much everything we need to do on that. First thing we'll do is we'll do roll a couple bits on here. We've got the slot in here, so we can either do washers or pull tabs on it. You can position this any way that you want around the piece. Same thing on this, snug it up. Don't over tighten it, it's just a compression fit in there. Then we have tabs, and we have our little copper washers. So we'll start with our setting, see what we have. So this you can position any way you want in here as long as it's making contact with the gun onto where you want to put it on and weld it on. So testing of them, if you twist them to see how strong they're on, it's just going to come off. So all you want to do is just do some pull straight out on it. You can kind of feel if it's going to be too weak, it'll pop right off. If you're feeling that it's on there pretty solid right now at that setting, so that's a good setting to start with. Again, we're at 65 on that. Bump the timer up to around 6. So to remove them is just take them and twist them, and they'll come right off. And it's a relatively clean break on it. You don't want to weld these on too strong, because when you go to twist them off, you have a possibility of making a hole in the panel. So on these, you can actually reuse these several times, and you can reform the tip on these. So if we throw it on again, you can continue on if you have a crease down in the panel. Put a rod through there, puller on it, and now you can control your pull on everything across the dent assembly instead of trying to do one spot at a time like with the slide hammer. So a slide hammer is a great thing for doing relatively small areas. If you're doing a crease all the way down the panel, if you put a bunch of these in the row, then you can actually pull that crease out at the same time instead of trying to do it step by step by step. So same principle on the washer assemblies. Into the gun, onto the panel. Same thing on that. It's got a relatively very good bite to it, so you can run steps through that or just put a little hook in there, pull it out. Same thing with here if you want to put a little hook on it and pull it out. So a couple different things on welding on, comes off the same way, and they are reusable for quite a long time. So we will switch over, do a little bit of wiggle wire. So on the skinny tip, if you look down on the inside, that will set all the way down in there and still tighten up. So it'll take the two sizes of products that we have in there. So wiggle wire, we'll just take half a section. So wiggle wire, wherever you want to put it in there. Put your attachment on it, do your pull coming out. Take wiggle wire off, easiest way. Again, just twist, come right off. This, if it comes off in decent shape, can be reused for the most part. By the time you're done welding this on and pulling on it, it usually ends up getting distorted, but if you still have good curves on it, you can weld it on again and continue on with it. So the nice thing about this little unit is we can actually weld on the little rivets that are, a lot of them are used for windshield or back glass opening moldings. So this little tip is designed for these pieces, that it has a little magnet in there that we can set that right in there, hold it in the gun, put it where you want, and it welds on. And again, on these you'll want to test them. Your first one going on, just kind of see how it is, because these will normally stay on the car for holding a product on, so you do want to make sure that you have good adhesion. If you're going to be doing it on the panel that you're leaving it on, make sure you try not to distort the panel, but you can just do a little bit of pull up on here and see how strong that the piece is. If it's not strong enough, bump up your power, your timer a little bit, weld another one on. So if you wiggle it, it will come off, but if you pull straight up, that's your strength test on it. Then the other piece that we can do are the other studs. So this tip that is going on for studs actually has a hole in each end. One is marked 5, one is marked 6, so that's just for the different diameter studs that are going to be going on. Put this in here. And I do know on these that we are going to bump up power and timer a little bit, because these actually require pretty much the most power of anything going on. Weld, and then you do your little test on it. If it comes right off, we need more power on it. This does require a little bit more because we do have a bigger surface here going on of the other products. So this one you would end up cranking up power and timer, testing on the type of stud that you have and the panel that you're putting on it. And these studs usually end up going on for holding some kind of wiring harness or a brake line or whatever bracket will be on there, normally in trunk floors, areas like that. So there are replacement studs with this also. So the other aspect of this, when you do some dent pulling with the little slide hammer, you end up with sometimes some high spots on there. So we actually have a little tool on this that will push down or do a little shrinking right on the little high spots that you've created on there. So if we go over to program number 1, where it has PU on here, you can't change the timer on this, but you can change your power setting. And what this is going to do, the timer is set automatically, so all we're going to do is take the center of the tip over a little high spot, and all we're going to do is a little bit of heat, a little bit of pressure coming down. And what that does is starts taking off that little crown of that point sticking up. If you try and tap that down with a hammer or with a punch right on the center, what you end up doing is shrinking, or is kicking the whole area down. This will actually take that little high spot, that little bit of heat on there, that little bit of pressure, and it'll actually shrink that point right down to a flat spot again. So real nice on this. You just put on, hit it. If it's still up a little bit, you can hit it again. And it's actually starting to go down now even more. So you can control that with power on the setting. Timer is set automatically. If you notice when I hold the trigger, it'll actually go 3 times. So if you want to just stay, if you have a relatively high one there, you want to make sure you don't push too far down though. So it's better to get used to it on the panel that you're working on based on the composition of the panel and the different thickness of it, and then just get used on how for pushing that down. So one of the other cool things that we have on this system, I'm going to take this off. Set that aside here, and what we have here is what's called an air puller. So same thing, power cord going in, same trigger cable going on. And we're going to grab a little bit of air on this. So in the setup on this, if we go back to the middle setting of the button, and if we turn timer all the way down, this actually puts us into the program for the air puller. So no power, no timer. So this unit right here now, so this is activated. This will weld, pull it, and then actually twist it off as it comes off. So you can adjust plus or minus your setting on this piece coming out. So I don't want to end up pulling out too much on this. And I think we'll go a little bit more, so we adjust this out and it will snap right off. So the nice part about this is that when you have your dent roughed out where you want it and you still have a couple little low spots, you can run this thing right over without having to pull anything off on it. It does the operation all by itself. So what it's doing with the little ring around here the side, your adjustment on the height, you can control how much the panel is coming up. And this little area right here is now significantly where I want it. So even in a little bit more of a low spot, so the nice part about this, settings are already done on the machine. All you have to do is adjust your height for the size of the area that you're pulling out. It's not meant to pull out big dents. This is meant to fine-tune what you've already roughed out on the dent and continue on with the air puller. All right, guys, well, that wraps up the Wielander Schill WS60 dent pulling station. Our name and number is on the screen in front of you. Have any questions, go on our website, give us a call. We'll be more happy to help you out. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.